is an injury update for the Tigers. This is an ever-growing list for the Clemson Tigers. Not season-ending injuries or anything like that, although we've had our fair share of those so far this season as well. Thoughts to Kobe McLeod and who am I missing that's out for the season?
Watson Young.
Adam Randall out for an extended period of time, although Dabo did say that he was looking very good and responding very well after his surgery on his foot there. So shout out to him. Hopefully he has a quick recovery. But this is an ever-growing list for the Tigers. I'm going to go ahead and list the guys, and then we'll talk a little bit about the impact that it could possibly have on this game and the Clemson season going forward with a couple of these guys. Some of these guys are scheduled to be back this game, hopefully. Fingers crossed nothing happens in practice. But we got Peter Woods. Dabo said he's practiced every single day, sounding like that he's going to return to the team, and it couldn't come at a better time. We need Peter Woods in the worst way along that defensive end position. Not that the guys filling in have done terrible, but we've showed some vulnerability along the edge for the Clemson Tigers defense. We'll get into that a little bit later. DeMonte Capehart day-to-day, Tyler Brown day-to-day as well. Antonio Williams, Dabo said he's good to go, so he's not day-to-day. That was the first non-day-to-day guy I think we've ever gotten out of Dabo so far in the 2024 season. Anyway, so Antonio Williams full go for Saturday's contest. Colin Sadler day-to-day. Troy Stellato day-to-day got hurt last week in practice. Obviously, we didn't know about it until game time, and he didn't play. So he's day-to-day as well. What are your thoughts on this ever-growing list of injuries or guys that are just, kind of banged up for the Tigers, and what kind of impact could it have on this Florida State game and then the broader season going forward for the Tigers?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point. This staff is really trying to do their best to manage this, kind of load manage this group because they want to make sure that their best guys are healthy. So, I think not all of these injuries are super serious, but they want to make sure that they heal up correctly and are good to go. It could have an impact. I mean, you're getting Peter Woods back is obviously the biggest addition you could possibly get. Massive for this defensive line group, this defensive end group, and will help you a lot in terms of your run defense and setting the edge. So it's good that these guys are. There's nothing there doesn't seem to be anything long term. We'll see who gets to go on game day, because again, day to day can mean they're out for another, this game. It could mean they're out for 2 more games, or it could mean they're going to play on Saturday, and you have no idea. It's not great that you don't have Colin Sadler, because again, he's been a reliable 6th guy to fill in and spell, especially at the guard position. So if he can't go, that does make things a little bit muddier in terms of your depth after Trent Howard. And so, but I think all things considered, it could be a lot worse. And glad that you're getting Peter Woods and Antonio Williams. And Antonio Williams played last week, so you didn't really lose him. But having him healthy is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely love to see Antonio Williams back a little bit healthier. Hopefully a week more of recovery, getting into the training room, getting that treatment, has him playing and feeling a little bit better against the Seminoles. DeMonte Capehart, that dude's a beast when he's healthy and he's on the field. So hopefully he's a go for Saturday, because I think his impact is kind of unmatched in the middle of that defense. Although we got some dudes there too, Trey Williams, Stephon Green. You can rattle off the rest of the defensive tackles as well. But DeMonte Capehart, I think, is just one of those unique guys that when he's not on the field, you can tell. He just has that kind of presence on the field. Peter Woods, a guy we need. We've struggled to set the edge, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we do the breakdown of Florida State and Clemson. But we need him back, and we need him healthy because he's just a big piece of that defense. And you can tell that he's been missing for for a period of time now. So hopefully we can get him back. Hopefully we get a few more of these pieces back, and we don't rack up too many injuries during the Florida State game. But as of right now, Clemson's looking pretty good in the injury department. Just a bunch of guys with kind of banged up, kind of knick-knack injuries, just stuff that happens throughout the season for every football team in America. So.
Yeah, and we'll see who gets to go among the day-to-days on Saturday. So it's always kind of a fun little guessing game.
It's a roll of the dice, man. You never know who's gonna go and who's not gonna go. So we'll see. We should start doing. They should start doing prop bets on which day-to-day player for the Tigers is gonna play.
Hey, that'd be fun. Yeah, you could probably make some good money if you get some intel early on.
Yeah, you got an inside guy. You might be able to make some money. All right, guys, we got 34 people in the live chat right now. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button while you're in here. Get as close to that 34 number as we possibly can. And also remember that you can catch Clemson live on all your favorite audio platforms, anywhere you get your podcasts, the long format audio of all of the shows that we do here on Clemson Football at the Voice of College Football are all there for you to listen to, rate, review, subscribe there. Again, Clemson Live on all your favorite audio platforms. All right, Jordan, this past Saturday, Clemson Tigers faced off against the Stanford Cardinals. It was a interesting game for a portion of it, but Clemson ended up winning the game 40-14, got the job done, faced a little adversity throughout the game. The offense faced a little bit of adversity, a little bit of sputtering and kind of drive stalling here and there for various reasons. The defense in the first half, obviously, kind of allowed that perimeter run to really gash them and really cause problems. The QB run caused a lot of problems in that game against Stanford as well. So it was nice to see, I think, for the offense to overcome adversity. It was nice to see Cade Klubnik stand in that pocket and take a couple shots and deliver the football and deliver catchable passes to the defense. I think the offensive line probably played its worst game of the season, possibly. But that's not to say they played terrible, but they allowed a little bit more pressure. They allowed their first sack that was credited against the offensive line for the 2024 season. Defense, obviously, the edge was a point of struggle, specifically in that first half. Turned the page to the second half. They kind of got it going a little bit, as did the offense, and Clemson kind of stretches the lead. Comfortable 26-point win at the end of it. But you did see some adversity happen. Shout out Barrett Carter. Shout out R.J. Mickens. They probably had their best games of the season this past Saturday. So what were your, just kind of trying to put a bow on the Stanford game, what were your overall thoughts going back, looking at the game now that we've had, 4 or 5 days to kind of digest it and kind of gather our thoughts on it? What were your kind of final thoughts on that Stanford game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start defensively because that was the group that, you saw a lot of you saw a consistent struggle. And obviously you mentioned setting the edge. At this point, you see the youth and inexperience that you have in that group. And I thought some guys flashed. I went back and watched the game. And, I think in the post game, I gave Jaheim Lawson a hard time. I thought he actually, going back and rewatching his snaps, he played a lot better than I thought. And so, potentially he's a guy that could slowly start to emerge and, be another option behind, Peter Woods. And of course, you have Cade Denhoff. But there's not really a clear rotation. AJ Hoffler, a guy, I've been banging the drum for, but he definitely struggled in this game. And that's what I thought in the post game, and it confirmed it, on the rewatch. So just kind of, it's good teach tape, as we've talked about, and this defense clearly, they have a lot of guys that are still kind of figuring their roles out and learning kind of as we go. But the good thing is the offense is scoring points and giving them the leeway to do so. And offensively, you faced adversity. I thought they responded well. Stanford was extremely aggressive. Played a lot of man. They walked a lot of guys up on the line of scrimmage. They didn't want Clemson to run the ball, to beat them running the ball. And Clemson said, okay, well, if you're going to give us, over the top, we're going to keep taking shots. And they did it. And that's what we've been, like I said in the postgame, that's what we've been looking to see out of a Clemson offense for the better part of 3 seasons. And you saw that they kept plugging, and eventually they hit. And Cade, despite some execution errors and some underthrows and some wide receiver and tight end drops, they still managed to put up over 400 yards of offense and 40 points. So, I mean, a bad game or an underwhelming game from this offense still has the ability to be explosive and put up a lot of points. And we definitely couldn't say that last year. I mean, a game like this would have ended with Clemson scoring like 17. Yeah. So it's good to see.
No doubt about it. And look, we're obviously going to point out the things that Clemson did not do well in that game. But at the end of the day, it's a far cry from the Clemson team that we saw last year. Clemson football kickoff makes a great point in here. Struggled, but still up 20-7 at the half. Starters finished 40-7. Not a bad game. Absolutely not. And that's kind of the point that I think both of us made during the post-game live video was, with all the things that could be cleaned up and could be done a lot better on this Clemson team, we were still in control of the game for the entire game. The game was never really in doubt. You never felt like Clemson was in danger of losing the game at any point. But there were certainly things that we could clean up, and that's not something we would have saw from this Clemson team last year. We would have been in a dogfight down to the end, stressed out, having half a heart attack in the fourth quarter, wondering if we're going to pull it out or we're going to have another, heartbreaking loss with some crazy turnover. That would have been last year, and that wasn't this year. So shout out to this team and the growth that they've done over the offseason and how different a year makes. It's fun to watch, and it's great to see that the offense has the ability now to pick up the defense when they are struggling a bit, when teams are moving the ball against them. And shout out to the defense as well for their red zone defense. It was great in the game. As much as Stanford moved the ball up and down the field, as soon as they got to the red zone, credit Clemson's defense for forcing them into those mistakes. I think some of those were probably bad calls on Stanford's part. But Clemson still forced them into those mistakes and capitalized on them. So overall, I think it was a good game for the Tigers, and it was nice to see them go through a little adversity after, as Dabo said, and I don't know if it was his post-game press conference or one of his weekly press conferences, but after a few easy halves, they finally got to, get on Clemson and the players a little bit during halftime because of, some of the play that was happening out on the field in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll continue to see how this team grows. And obviously this matchup is going to be it's going to be a bigger test than, probably the record that will indicate, but especially offensively, Florida State's defense is still pretty good and has some really talented football players. So you're going to have to see the execution be on point in this game as well if you want to have the result that maybe the point spread would indicate, or even more. So we'll definitely see.
Did we hear anything about Daniels and his injury that he sustained during the game? Is he?
Yeah, I think they suspected it was an ankle. I know he's going to be out for a little bit, but I went and looked, I think yesterday or a couple days ago, and there wasn't anything definitive. So I'm not really sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully he makes a quick recovery. I know that offense is going to look vastly different without him in there. So hopefully he makes a quick recovery.